Hey! Hello everybody. Good morning on this beautiful Friday sunny morning. Quick one. I began phase 2 of my blank slate media activities, which were podcasts, and this was supposed to be released last night. I'd already had an intro video done. Little did I know how much effort went into editing. Kudos to anyone who does it full time. I think you're actually insane, but whatever. And so at 10:30 last night, after 13 hours of sitting in front of the laptop, I admitted defeat and sent the infamous customer service query looking for them to contact me in relation to an issue I was having, only to wake up to an email explaining to log in to my account and then to explain to me that I need to give more information. So, no help. So I came back to the original file and found what the problem was. So podcast completed an hour and 6 minutes, file an hour and 39 minutes. Couldn't work out what it was. Turns out I had 0.23 seconds of footage had somehow slipped to an hour and 39, and so when you zoom out that vanishes. So woke up this morning, got it fixed. So now I've got to do a new intro because this was supposed to be released last night, and I'll explain to you why. Some of you may have realized that last night was the night we were meant to run productivity seminar with myself and Branislav, but it didn't happen. So we got together and ran my first podcast, and it was supposed to be released last night because it would have been there on the time that we're supposed to be doing the seminar, and it would have been so perfect, but then I'm too stupid to figure it out, so it's going to have to be a day late. So without further ado, my first guest on the podcast is Coach Branislav Blatnjak. So he is a psychologist with 10 years experience. He's a very bright dude. He's a very deep thinker. We have a very good conversation. We talk, obviously, so this is day 2 of level 5 lockdown in Ireland once again. It's funny, like we only shot the podcast on Wednesday, and already I see how many stupid statements I made in the podcast, but I think I'm going to have to get used to that. I'm not exactly the best for... Yeah. Anyway, you'll find out. It's literally called, the podcast is called Rambleland, so I think I'm allowed a bit of space to be me. And so, yeah, psychologist, 10 years experience. We discuss lockdown. We discuss activities people can get up to over the lockdown. We discussed his move to Norway. We discussed topics that would have been discussed in the productivity seminar. So all in all, it's a nice little compact hour. It was going to be released as a special, as a sort of a once-off before the rest of them. I want to try and release them on regular intervals. So when the next one will be, I'm not 100% sure as of yet, especially with level 5. I've got to consider a few different factors. But for now, Rambleland episode 1 with Coach Branislav Blatnjak. So, Bran, lovely to see you.
Again, good to see you too.
And the day before level 5 kicks in again here, we get to sit down and do the first podcast I've ever done. I'm looking forward to this now, because yeah, it's going to be a new one now, because this is probably what I'm going to be spending my time over the next couple of months doing anyway. Never done it before. I don't know how to podcast, or if there's a good way or a bad way to go about it, but
we'll do our best.
I'm glad now I actually have you on my first podcast, like, because you're always a good man for feedback.
Thank you.
Make sure I actually fucking do it right.
Yeah, I kind of need some feedback as well after the podcast to see what went well and what we can do better. Me as a potential speaker and teaching seminars, and you also as a future speaker as well, but also as a moderator. So it's going to be a good practice for both of us.
I think they're great as well. Podcasts are lovely for actually getting your point out and really fleshing out the little finer details to it, like, and really finding out what someone's thinking. And I prefer that than there's no other really social media platform I want to get on at the minute other than podcasts, because I don't like the short little superficial clips that a lot of people do, but I think that podcast now is something that I'm actually interested in. So I'm hoping that there's actually I'm hoping now I'm going to be able to find a bit of traction behind this and do it.
You will. Give it enough time and effort, you will.
The level 5 will be a bit of a problem though, getting people to sit down, because like some people won't want to break the lockdown and other people will.
But it's only so much you can control over the level 5 lockdown. Obviously, some things we can't control and influence, other things are outside of our control boundaries, and what we can do is to do our very best with the time that we have and with the circumstances that we have at the moment. We can do the very best we can.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's always something we can do. If there is a will, there is a way.
I was actually going to bring this one up because you put up that video the other day, and I actually really did like that video. But you referenced this next stage of this next lockdown we're going through as looking at it that as if we've been put in prison for a crime we didn't commit. And there's something that really, really gratifying about that. But it's just put the head down now and just make the most of it. Don't be dragging the feet, because it'll make your life harder and tougher. But I was wondering, like, did you have any more to add to that? Like, what can people be doing now over the lockdown?
Well, you know me, when you ask me a question like that, I will always answer you in the same way. It depends on your goals.
Yeah, you love that.
It depends what you want to create at the end of those 6 weeks. Instinctually, by default, you will feel sad and disappointed, maybe angry. It depends who you are as a person, depending on your character, depending on your past experiences, successes and failures. This will determine your initial reaction to things like this, because obviously the whole situation to a lot of people doesn't make much sense on a logical level and also on different levels as well. We kind of all think that things couldn't be done better. Yeah. There's something better that we can do about it. And my whole opinion about the situation is there's a lot of lies, fear-mongering and hypocrisy involved with the whole situation. So we can recognize that. That kind of insults our intelligence as well, because there's probably 5 or 10 different things that we can do better than we've already been doing and than our government has already been doing. And but if we spend too much energy about trying to control what is uncontrollable at the moment, that's a definition for suffering.
Yeah.
Needlessly spending the energy on the uncontrollable is suffering. So pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So depends on your goals. Where do you want to be in 6 weeks? Overweight, which you can, of course, or you want to be maybe a little bit fitter now. Do you want to spend 200 euros on takeaway food, or do you want to practice your cooking skills, creating a nutrients-dense meals for you? Do you want to be physically stronger by doing maybe some push-ups and pull-ups at home, doing sit-ups, or are you going to allow this just to break you in a way, so you can just give up and use excuses and rationalization that, okay, by the end of the 6 weeks, then I will start. It's certainly an option. It depends on your goals. If your goal is to remain where you are and maybe to, in a way, regress to some previous form of your functioning, not so optimal ways of functioning before the lockdown, during the past lockdown, and you can use that as an excuse. It's a valid excuse. Some people will do that. But again, You'll be locked down for 6 weeks. It depends on you. What will you do with those 6 weeks? Instinctually, you want to regress into an infantile way of behaving and thinking. That's your instinctual reaction for most people. I am one of them. Probably you are.
I am. Yeah. I can feel it.
There's no shame in admitting that. But there's on the other side of conquering that instinctual tendency, there is a lot of personal development at the other end of that journey. That you will grow your character, you will become better, you will become wiser if you decide to do it. If you decide not to give it two craps about overeating and now just relaxing. Relaxing from what? It's like relaxing for what? You can only relax for so long. Human beings, when we relax for too long, we experience atrophy, psychological and mental atrophy. So we have to balance. If we want to be healthy psychologically and physiologically, we have to balance relaxation with strenuous effort, exertion of energy.
Yeah.
So physical and mental.
But it's easy to say that when you've got the vision of where you can encourage people to go back and work on themselves and to have personal development. But what happens then with the people who have got to go home to the families where maybe their father's an alcoholic, or that there's 6 people living in a house and they're sharing a room with their brother, and their mother's got a new boyfriend coming in every night of the week, and there's the young children are causing havoc, and the actual environment that they have to be locked down in is an absolute disaster and a hellhole. How can you expect those people to be able to pull up their bootstraps? And it's like some people have it easy. Some people like, look, I can come back in here and I can be locked down in here, no problem. I've got a wonderful view. I've got all the food I could eat for. I get on with the people I live with, and so it could easily be for me. It will be easier for me to go out and do fitness and try to keep busy. And I've got quiet space here I can read. But not everyone can do that.
I know. And you know that I've always been saying that life is one mean, unfair, unjust place. And lockdowns and thoughtless decisions like that, they make life even more hell than it is. Then unfortunately life will be extremely difficult on some people. It already is. This will only make things worse. But my hope is if someone is watching this and they don't have to give up, try to do as much as you can. Because 6 weeks can be a hell for you, but I believe there's always something you can do if you choose to do it. If you refuse to be a victim of the circumstances. I know that unfortunately some people live in homes with alcoholics or with people who abuse drugs, who gamble. That's the unfortunate reality for us human beings. The evil always has an upper hand for some reason. If we watch those hero movies, my favorite is Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, you always see that we're being overwhelmed by evil, by forces that want to destroy all that's good, all progress. Lockdown represents a way of evil that has probably on a certain level a desire to destroy any progress we made so far. And I don't blame the government, I don't blame the people that are running it. I know they're just playing a role. They've chosen the side of evil, in my opinion, the side of destruction because they refuse to utilize the full potential of us as human beings.
But that's the irony. They actually think they've picked the good side.
But that's what
they think they're actually doing us all favors.
That's what evil people will always do, in my opinion. If you're a right and just human being, you don't have to explain to everyone else that you're being right and just. You just do the right thing. You don't explain, you don't rationalize, you don't generalize, you don't pretend, you don't sugarcoat it. You just do what's the right thing to do. That's what heroes do.
It is interesting because it's the phrase. I never gave it much credence whenever I first heard the phrase. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I remember it's a very common phrase, and so you hear it when you're young, and a lot of times when you hear things when you're young, you disregard it at the very beginning. You almost never think about it again. But in the last couple of months and even the last year or two, it ties in sort of with virtue signaling and all these people who are coming out and fighting for minorities and fighting for people who are perceived victims, and they all have what on the surface seems a wonderful, logical and just and human respect in their motives, where they're only here to do good, but in doing so they cause unmitigated destruction.
Well, that's our nature as human beings. Unfortunately, Freud was explaining this by human beings essentially having two instincts for life and instincts of death and destruction. So whole human life is just a direct result of the opposing forces clashing non-stop. We also like to fight imaginary enemies, and I'm not saying that COVID is imaginary, but it's blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
So you have 1,000 cases. Did anyone ask, so what? It's like it's not like that you have 1,000 people dying in Ireland every day, so that you need to close the economy for 6 weeks. Is that really what we need to do at this stage? Unless there's something we don't know, then it could be a reasonable excuse to close the whole country for 6 weeks. What's happening? We're not dumb. We're not utilizing all the potential we have, not even close.
Well, this is actually an interesting one because I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday whereby... So first of all, I thought we were never going back into another lockdown. I thought after the last lockdown, they said, okay, right, we tried this method. we probably won't implement it again. And I thought that's what the plan was, to find a different strategy the next time. Now it looks like we're facing another lockdown, very similar to the one we had a couple of months ago. There is a little bit of a difference in this one though. For example, NCT centres and where you get your VRT done, they're staying open. Motor garages, some of them that I know of, are staying open. Construction industry, they kept going this time. I'm unaware if there's any other new industries that were locked down the first time that are going to keep going this time. And if we can actually now create a new system of lockdown whereby each time we go into a lockdown, we analyse the risks on each industry and we allow more and more industries to take a mediated risk, that could actually be an alright strategy. If the government came out and said, right, we're going to implement a revised lockdown every time where more industries will keep working, I'll support them on that one. But this lockdown again has that same paranoid fear of just, right, we don't know what to do, so we're going to stop everything again indefinitely, and we're going to just, once again, we're just going to start handing money out to people. But I actually thought that would be a nice way of doing lockdowns though, if you began to move more industries back into the working market even through a lockdown. Because in construction, then you had the problem with the meat factories and the industries that didn't close down. There was outbreaks and cases there, and that created a lot of fear and paranoia of them again. So is there a version of the lockdown you can run, or that you can imagine, that's more productive than just this blanket lockdown?
Well, in the ethical classes that we used to run, and when I was being certified as a psychologist, is you often have this ethical debate, that you're driving a bus, and then in front of you there's 3 children playing, and on the other side is 199-year-olds, and you have to steer left or right. Mm-hmm. For some reason you can't go straight. Mm-hmm. But you have to choose. What would you choose? How would you choose? I wouldn't know what to choose, but it depends on your goals. You know that the other people are at the end of their lifespan, and you know that those 3 or 2 children are your future. I'm not saying that we shouldn't implement lockdowns and we should we should just ignore the needs and other vulnerable people. But my hypothesis is, whenever government tells me that they care about my family, about my mother and my grandmother, I call that a bull.
Or even more, if they care about them more than you care about them.
Exactly. You don't protect people by making them weaker and by isolating people. People are tough. We are tough. We can find a way without them. The problem is they're sending a lot of subliminal messages. People are being brainwashed, and that's not a good way of protecting people. So both of us are big fans of Jordan Peterson. Yeah. And recently I finished the Gulag Archipelago by Solzhenitsyn.
I have it inside on the desk. I'm waiting to read it.
When the time is right, you will. Yeah. Same was with me. So one of the things that struck me most was when they had those big gatherings for Stalin back in the 1950s, I think. So there was 300-500 people, and Stalin was talking or something. So they all had to clap. The secret police would be on the side, and people would clap. Not just regular claps. They would raise their hands in the air. They would clap non-stop for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. There was older people in the crowd, and the secret police would be watching. Who will be the first one to stop clapping? Because you know what happens to those people. They'll be taken away and put in a camp. Why did you stop clapping? You don't like the Comrade Stalin? So 15 minutes is not enough. 20 minutes is not enough. Half an hour. When is the right time to stop clapping? When will be the right time to stop wearing goddamn masks outside on the fresh air, like the air is poisonous, and that we human beings are somehow machinery spreading various diseases? I don't think that's true. And if I am, may I be condemned by the government and by other people as well. I don't think we should isolate people non-stop, because we can run lockdowns until the rest of our lives.
And that's the thing. That's the fear about it, is that this sort of cowardice, sort of pullback from all sort of engagement. You can do that indefinitely until you either run out of money entirely, or people
until there's other agenda on the table. Instead, for your viewers, eat healthy, eat nutrients-dense foods. Not every food is the same.
That's a big one now.
Work out. Boost up your immune system.
Yeah.
Drink water. Get enough sleep.
Where is that advice? Who is coming out? That's a major one. So far, anyone in that sort of official capacity come out and say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Wear a mask and wash your hands. That's about all the health advice we have. No one has come out and said, look, first of all, you're vulnerable to corona because you've got bad health, more than likely. Now, some people are born with bad health, etc., and I'm not criticizing them. But a lot of people have allowed their lives to continue on in an unhealthy path. And they've kicked the health can down the road continuously, and then something like this comes along, and all the bad decisions they made when it came to their health is going to come bite them in the ass. Instead of coming out and saying, right, we know that the corona doesn't kill everyone indiscriminately, we know that it affects a certain number of people higher than it does others, and in that category there's unhealthy people. For the rest of people and people who are unhealthy, you have to start taking care of your health now. We don't know when corona is going to end. Anyone who's currently got health problems, it's not going to be cured in the next year. You're probably still going to remain vulnerable. Therefore, you need to be following these steps that our scientists have come together and said, right, these foods are very important. This is great for this. Exercise is great for keeping lung capacity and lung function up. Once again, cut down smoking, but everyone knows that one, all right. But so far, I haven't seen anyone come out and give a list of good advice for what people can do when they're stuck in their homes, for what they can do to keep their health up. Like there was that Dr. Rhonda Patrick came out and started advocating for vitamin D, and she actually came out on a Joe Rogan, and Joe's response was like, what, vitamin D, really? And then he started looking into it, and then any guest he sat down and it was like vitamin D, and it's fantastic advice. And then you start looking at vitamin D and you say, well, why have I only heard vitamin D being recommended by one medical practitioner in America on a podcast? Why have I not heard any other advice from anybody else? And that's a flipping problem, because that's a leadership issue. Like, a leader should be able to come out and encourage his troops in all aspects. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing cowards come out and say, oh, we're going to try and keep a few people healthy, so we're going to destroy the economy, we're going to keep the blinkers on and hope for the best when we come out of this. And that's, there's actually an opportunity there for people to come out and start giving real advice, real health advice for people who are currently going through whatever lifestyle choices they're having, like to bring in some other things for consideration. What to eat, what to do, how much sleep you should be getting, fitness, all these kind of basic things, and no one's doing that. That really gets under my skin. If you're going to come out and sow all this fear, at least give some good workable advice.
But this could be an indicator that they're not doing it in the best interest of people, that they're possibly doing it for the best interest of chosen few that's on the top of the hierarchy. People who can profit the most out of the whole situation. And people will say that, okay, there's a conspiracy theory, you're being a conspiracy theorist here before, you're thinking probably about 5G antennas and palm trees and all that bull crap. It's not true. I care about people, I work with people, I help with people. I suffered a lot as a young boy, as a young man as well, by making a lot of wrong choices because I didn't have mentors around me. That's why I'm trying to give back to the society, trying to encourage people to set goals, to read more, to train more, to eat healthier. That's why I'm doing it. I don't make any profit from this. And it's because so many things can be going underneath the surface. We can't know for sure what's happening. The only thing we can focus on is what we will do with the time that we have.
My fear then is that on the topic of who's profiting from it, so if you really think somebody's profiting it, I don't believe in a grand conspiracy theory that there's a shadow economy that are gleaning up all this.
We human beings, we destroy economies every 10 years. We don't. The problem with human beings, and I'm talking about is psychological now. We don't know how to live in the peaceful time. That's why Freud was talking about the instincts of death. It's always lurking there. Yeah. We always have to find enemies. I'm big into studying Navy SEALs and Special Forces. Yeah. And one of the authors mentioned how the American Army always needs to have enemies. So before it was Iraq, Iran, there was Soviet Russia, then it was Al-Qaeda, there was ISIS, there was Taliban. It's always someone. We don't live in peaceful times. We always have to find enemies to fight against. If we don't have them, we invent them, because it's very hard for us to live in the vacuum.
But in that becomes progress, Because when you imagine you've got a demon you've got to deal with, whether it's obesity or health or whatever, you have to create something to focus towards.
But that's why I'm saying, but I don't think the COVID is the right thing. I don't think this plan is creating a progress. We're just getting the same results over and over again. What new will you learn from locking down the country? Nothing at all. You'll get the same feedback that you got the first time. There's so many things you can do better this time, but it depends on your goals. Are you on the side of progress and construction, or are you on the side of destruction?
Well, the lockdown is putting a band-aid over a bullet hole. So they don't know what to do, and so this is the minimal they can do to try and look like they're doing something. And if we can, that's what I'm saying earlier, if we can learn from each lockdown as we go along and allow more industries to keep going or allow different tactics, I'm okay with that. I'll support that. But my thing is that when the government are making their decisions, now this happens more so in America, lobbying of politicians to suit a particular agenda has always been an issue with people. It's just a human thing. You like certain people offer you certain favors. I'm not blaming them. It's corruption. It shouldn't happen. But I can't really see any particular industry that's benefiting unfairly from this. To be fair, most industries are getting fairly well ravaged by this.
I'm not going to go into that because I don't have the data.
Yeah.
I'm kind of guessing. Yeah. And everything I'm saying is a lie.
Yeah.
Why I'm saying this because I'm doing the talking now when it's my turn to talk.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of constructing the words by using my limited experience. As being trained in NLP, we say something at Alfred Korzybski said it, map is not a territory. So when I go through life and kind of charting the only things that are relevant to me that are kind of aligned with my previous experience and with what my personality is aligned with. So I'm kind of constructing everything the way I see. So everything that I'm saying is kind of my own limited perspective.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that any of this is true.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you, one thing that I can guarantee with my life is it will all depends about your goal. It will depend on your goals. What do you want to create with your life? Because your goals are your light at the end of the tunnel. If there is no light, you will give up. You will just go through the motions. You will do whatever you want, whatever comes first to your mind. You will probably jump into reckless decision, impulsive reactions, and making decisions impulsively that will often harm your physical body and your psyche as well. In a way, it will impair your decision thinking. It will harm your relationships. Left by default, things go from bad to worse.
Yeah. Yeah, we touched on this now lovely in the seminar we ran there a few weeks ago, and it was something I didn't even appreciate fully until I actually began to look at it. In the absence of goals, you're just autopilot. You're drifting in the wind. Whatever happens, you go with it. Goals are far more important than I ever realized.
Goals are imperfect word. Like I told you, goals are imperfect symbols.
Well, words are imperfect symbols.
Yes, exactly what I was trying to say. So the words are imperfect symbols. People can use the word outcome as a synonym for goals. Some people use problems for goals. Some people get
targets
by solving problems. Then some people prefer to solve problems instead of working on goals. Goals represent your conscious attempt to create a better future for yourself. So you're using your potential you have, the capacities you have, previous experience, successes and failures, to try to manifest something in the external world or some internal in some personality trait that you don't have right now. You're working on it because you believe that your life can be better as a consequence. That's all what the goal is. Creating something that doesn't exist or it partially exists. Something better. Goal always represents something better than you already have. Or at least a focused attempt to create something better. Sometimes people achieve their goals and you realize, okay, this is not exactly something that I wanted, but look, it is what it is now. So
the goals, and then I was disappointed we didn't actually get to run our second seminar, which was meant to be actually taking place tomorrow evening. I was on the topic of productivity, and so on that idea, because not every industry obviously has been laid off, but a lot of people have gone back on the COVID payment. They have arguably an unlimited amount of time now available to them, where once again, and this is what I really loved about the last lockdown, whatever hobby, whatever activity, whatever thing you did all day, it was like you were a professional that thing. So if you gamed all day, whether it's Call of Duty, FIFA, whatever your interest was, and you're getting $350 a week off the government, that is effectively as if you were sponsored by Sony or by Microsoft, and you're a professional gamer getting $350 a week to sit at your home and produce content. Like, that was such a beautiful point in time where you may never ever have that experience again. Same with reading, with cooking, with fitness. Whatever you dedicated time to, you could imagine for that moment that you were a professional at it, and it was so much fun. And now this opportunity is there again for some people, that they've now got 6 weeks where they may have nothing to do all day. And so it's going to come down to the individual. What are you actually going to do at the time that's there? And that ties in beautifully with productivity, which is what we should have been running tomorrow. Yeah. And productivity is based that out of the 24 hours in the day, how can you get more out of your day than the fella down the road? And that's people's a lot of complaints is, no, I didn't have time. I don't have time for fitness. I don't have time to eat healthy. I don't have time to make dinners. I don't have time to sleep a lot. Every single person, it's the same 24-hour slots available to them. Some of them just use them better than others. And that's why the seminar that should have been taking place tomorrow is vital for people to hear. Because it was giving them the tricks and the tools to maximize the 24 hours of their day.
Yeah.
And so now, if I was to say to you, right, whoever listens to this, I hope people are going to listen to this. What would have been one of the most important things you would have hoped to have said tomorrow?
Well, the seminar was based on modeling several books that I studied for many years. One of them was The Power of Full Engagement by Tony Schwartz and Jim Loehr. And one of the hypotheses is, and I think it's very true, is that we can't manage our time, we can only manage our energy.
Mm-hmm.
So every morning we wake up with a certain amount of energy that we can invest in certain activities. And the more energy we have, the more productive we will be. So the energy obviously comes from the food we eat, from physical activity, because physical activity relieves us a lot of stress that's accumulated through the past days and weeks and months and years. So you can't manage your time. We do have 24 hours a day. Every single person has it. Maybe schizophrenic don't, because so we won't say that it's 100%. But it will depend on, first of all, it will depend on your goals, it will depend on your energy levels. But you will find that energy levels that you will have to invest in certain activities, that you'll be able to invest in certain activities, and your goals, they go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, what I would tell to people is the outlook of your day will depend on how you start your day from the very morning. I'm not an expert on the food, although I am a qualified fitness nutritionist coach.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would recommend to people is when they wake up in the morning, it will all depend how they start their morning. So there's something I call, not just me, but in that book as well, it's called the morning ritual. It's a chosen set of activities that you implement upon waking up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say first hour or 2 hours of your day that will decide the outlook of your entire day.
Yeah.
What I would recommend to people is when they wake up, the first thing is take care of your body right away from the start. Wash your face, wash your teeth, drink a glass of water or squeeze some lemon in the water, or maybe take a jug of water and the night before and put some slices of lemon, lime,
or mint,
and just leave it there overnight. When you wake up, wash your face or take shower and wash your teeth as well, and drink some water fluid at the beginning of the day. It's very, very important to stabilize your energy levels. So yeah, some people prefer to do the reading in the morning. Some people like to exercise in a fasted state, so without food. It's about finding out what works for you. So giving you a couple of examples so you can take what you think could work for you right now. The big problem one of the biggest problems that people have is when they try to use someone else's strategy to their life. Let's say if I try to live life like David Goggins, not only I will fail miserably, but I will likely die in the process. And I can prove myself that I can do it. Maybe I can do it if the stimuli is if the reward is high enough for me to invest that kind of effort. But it's not necessary to do it. It's a foolish strategy. So the other example I was saying about when Tony Ferguson was preparing for a fight against Khabib, which was probably one of the biggest fights in UFC of all time. So the fight failed because of COVID, and he was still cutting weight. Then he lost the title fight to a different challenger. He proved himself that he can do it, and of course he can do it. He's a world-class competitor, but it was a foolish strategy that likely cost him a title and millions and millions of dollars. So make sure that what you're doing, it works well for you, it's aligned with what you're trying to get in the long run. Otherwise, it's foolhardy.
I'll give you a normal person's day though. A normal person's morning time is that stupid alarm noise goes off that everyone has their own alarm that right, have you ever gone through the day and somebody's phone rang or made an alert noise that was the same as your phone's morning alarm? You get a twitch and you're like, ooh. It gets so ingrained in this noise that wakes you up from your slumber that it. So most people's morning routine is this: alarm goes off, they punch that snooze button. Maybe there's an hour before they have to be in work. Snooze goes off, maybe 5-6 minutes later. Boom, they hit that snooze button again. Another few minutes. Boom, they hit that again, and boom, boom, boom. When they've got half an hour to get to work, and work is 35 minutes away. Then they get out of bed. They throw on what few clothes they can find and they stumble out the door and they get to work. They've no breakfast, they've no water, no tea, no coffee, nothing sets them up. So that's a normal person's day.
I would say that probably 99.9% of people will operate that as their instinctual reaction to the alarm.
They may have been operating like that for 10, 20 years.
Yes. But again, it depends on your goals. If your goals is to have more than mediocre life, you can't afford yourself to hit a snooze button 5 times every morning. You can't afford yourself to skip healthy breakfast or to skip workouts during the day. It simply doesn't come along with the goal of having a prosperous, healthy, abundant life.
But how does somebody step away from the routine that they've been doing all the time? How do you get that person to get up on the first alarm bell?
Well, you would ideally want them to first focus on creating a vision of the future that's desirable for them. I was quoting the Abraham Lincoln English. So he said something like, if I have 10 hours to chop the tree down, I will spend 7 hours sharpening the axe. So what I say to people is that psychological preparation always precedes external success. So first you set a goal, something that you want to achieve, and you need to make sure that other parts of you are aligned with that goal. Obviously, we all have the beginner's enthusiasm to change something, but sometimes we set the goals that are far outside of our contemporary psychological shape. We can't simply cope with the task that we set for ourselves to do. So if you're out of shape psychologically, so if you have a bad momentum, series of failures, unsuccessful attempts, the first thing you need to do is to set a realistic goal, something that you can achieve that will boost up your confidence. Because every courageous act of, not a foolhardy act, something that's manageable, something that's good for you, every time you attempt to do that, psychologically is building your, is filling your confidence tank. That's what one of my mentors, Paul Dobransky, used to say. You're increasing your confidence every time. You're being a father to yourself every time you're being courageous. And being courageous means to do the right thing, do what needs to be done. The second thing I wanted to say is instinctually you will want to hit the snooze button, because it's like you're climbing on top of the hill. It's a steep climb. It's difficult, but you have to believe that something awaits you, something much better awaits you on the top of that hill. And after a week or two, maybe even less than that, if you hit a sweet spot when creating your goals, it will get easier to you. If I believe Jordan Peterson said this, if your goal is overwhelmingly difficult, or if the activities that your goals entails, that it encompasses, if they're overwhelmingly difficult, that you're doing something wrong. And there is no point going through the wall and hitting your head against the wall hoping that the wall will break. Most likely your head will break. So if something doesn't work, try something else. There's no point of trying harder, it's about trying something else. And what I've learned by studying NLP for many years is, especially now because I've been reading it a lot now, it's not about limiting the activities that are bad for you, it's about adding more choices.
Right, say that again.
Yeah, it's a mind blow, I know. So ideally, you do not want to desensitize yourself from bad activities. They have a valid purpose in your life.
Bad activities being bad habits.
Well, let's say, and we say bad. Bad is artificial construct. It's just a word we use to explain that set of activities that we are doing right now is creating undesirable effects and maybe potentially harming our physiological and psychological well-being in the long run.
Yeah.
So it's about adding more choices. You ideally want to add more choices. If you only have one way of doing things, if it doesn't work, you feel stuck. If you have 2 ways of doing things, you have a dilemma. But you have 3 ways of doing things, you have freedom. Now, because if one of those 2 options fails, you still have plan C. The more options you have, the better you will feel.
Yeah.
If you only have one way of waking up, let's say in the morning, let's say I wake up in the morning, I'm going to read now for 1 hour, I'm going to eat breakfast, I'm going to do the workout. Yeah.
And that's getting up at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
You're not Jocko Willink. And you're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
If you were meant to be that kind of a person, you would already be that kind of person. So the thing you need to learn, if you want to be successful with your goals, is to find who you are, what's manageable for you right now.
Do you know a weird one that I actually started incorporating? And it was, I don't know what made me do it for the very first time. I was never terrible for hitting the snooze button, because the few minutes of extra peace that I got were always tainted with misery and the knowledge that I'm going to have to get up soon. And that used to actually make me angry. And then I used to wake up, say I set the alarm, bang on 8 o'clock. You'd have a few minutes of, oh, okay, I'm going to get up now. Okay, no, I'm actually going to get up now. Okay, no, this time I'm getting up. And you have those moments, and then eventually you get up, and then it's 8:15, and you're like, oh, I need to be in work for 9, and I've got less than an hour, and I'm already kind of stressed getting out of bed. What I started doing was setting the alarm for example, 7:56. Or if I actually had an important meeting, I'd set it for 7:54. And I'd get up on the first alarm. I'd get up on the first alarm. I'd sit on the edge of the bed. I'd clear my head. I'm like, okay, I'm up. And then I'm going to get up. And next thing, I'm in the kitchen, and it's still 2 minutes to 8. Now in my head, I have an hour to get to work. I'm out of bed. I'm already in the kitchen. There's no point getting back into bed now. And then I start making my breakfast. So I'm going to tidy up the things I didn't put away last night. And the next thing, the brains begin to flow again. The juice is flowing. And I'm up and I'm awake, and it's 8:10 and I'm alert again. And I don't know what it is, but not setting my alarm to the hour changed my morning routine whenever I have to get up. And I've stuck with it now. I've been using it for well over a year. And it's a lovely little trick. And I would advise people who struggle with the snooze button to try it. Don't set it on an even number, an hour. Don't set it on an hour, 8:15, 8:30. For me, it would be like 54, 56, 12 or 13, 24, 26, and similar the way around the clock. I don't know why, but it worked for me.
If it works for you, that's a habit.
Yeah, perfect. That's actually what the lesson you were saying, is that it have to work for you. And this is an unusual one that actually does work for me.
What I like to do as well is to, first of all, the night before, I like to switch off my phone. Not switch off entirely, just put it in the silent and the airplane mode. Yeah. Double dose. Because the enemies of productivity and productive sleep as well are distractions and interruptions.
Yeah.
So you don't want to lose that rhythm of sleep that you have, normal sleep. It's very important for, well, basically it's regenerating your body overnight.
Yeah.
Your body is healing overnight. Sleep provides kind of a, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's healing effect. It has a healing effect on your body.
Rejuvenative effect.
Rejuvenation, exactly. And not only that, but it's also helping your mind to assimilate knowledge from the previous day and integrate new experiences and discard what's no longer needed.
Well, it also goes through repetition. So if you do a particular action throughout the day and you tell your brain you want to learn this, you want to get better at this, when you sleep, particularly during REM sleep, your brain will go over that action in your head. But I can't remember the figure. I think it could be up to 5 or 6 times faster than what you were doing in reality, and your brain just going playing that over and over in your head. So the next day when you get up after a good night's sleep and you go back to do the activity again, you actually have improved, because during the night your brain is going, right, this is the task we have to work on, and we're going to work on it. But coming back to the rejuvenative one, an interesting way of putting it was Matthew Walker, brilliant guy if you want to look up sleep. So shout out Matthew Walker, genius. He's a neurologist, fantastic expert on sleep.
Why We Sleep.
Yes, great book. That's a lie. I have not read it. I have read summaries about it, but he had a lovely way of looking at what happens when you sleep. Is that there's a street cleaning mechanism that takes place where all the neurotoxins that build up in your brain throughout the day get cleaned out in your REM sleep. And while you think, oh yeah, that's great, whatever, the problem then is that if you don't get REM sleep on one particular night, those neurotoxins sort of reside in the crevices of your mind, and they harm the synapses in your brain. They do actual structural damage to parts of your brain. And you go, one night won't matter. But then it's 2 nights a week, and it's every week. Or for some people, it's every night they're getting broken sleep, or every night they're say they're under the influence of drugs going to sleep, and they don't hit those REM sleeps, those crucial hours, or they're only getting 4 hours sleep, and they leave their phone on, or whatever distraction keeps them awake. Night after night after night after night of these build-ups of these toxins in the brain can do horrific damage to your mind. And he also used the example that Margaret Thatcher and it was an American president. No, it was before Clinton, I think. Before them again, I think. They used to be big advocates. I think it was Reagan. They're heavy advocates for they don't need much sleep. We're high functioning. We're able to exist on low sleep. And they both died with Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's is connected to people not getting, in some cases, to people not getting enough sleep. And they were relating it to these toxins that are left in the mind that are slowly eroding parts of the brain. So that's another crucial one about sleep. Can I move on for 2 seconds? Because it was interesting, your aspect that you were going to take for productivity was different from the research that I was doing. Because I was relying heavily on David Allen. He produced a book called Getting Things Done. And he focuses more on tools. Sort of the hardware as opposed to the software, which seems to be what you're referring to more. And it would have been a nice sort of clash for that seminar. That there would have been the two elements counted for.
The problem that I have is, okay, so here's my hypothesis. There's a big difference between a motivational speaker and a psychologist. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying that I'm a world-class psychologist, but I did fair share of my homework. Yeah. I've been studying psychology for more than 10 years now. Yeah. Different schools of psychology. I'm kind of on a way to inventing my own kind of approach to psychology, which I call new rational therapy, which has a goal to integrate all kind of different schools of psychology. Mm. And we all know what we need to do. We all know that we need to be healthier, to have better relationships with people, to have enough money, but we are not doing it. So they tell us, motivational speaker, they tell us, okay, you should do this, you should think positive. Well, I'm not Captain Obvious. I know I have to do that, but for some reason, I'm not doing it. Mm. But what I'm interested in is finding out the processes inside us, in our internal world, that are preventing us to achieve the success in the external world. Because you can't be successful in the external world if you don't have your inner room in order. Mm. So why are we not doing that? And what can we do to get that room into perfect order? So you can, or not maybe the room, it's this army that's inside us of different parts of our personality. How can we align them so they can all work as a unit to create something we want in life? Instead of getting some random results. Sometimes we get a good stuff, sometimes we get a bad stuff. Sometimes our life is going well for maybe several weeks, then all of a sudden something happens in the external world and we are into shambles now. Mm-hmm. Everything is a disaster. So my goal is researching what can we do to consistently produce the desired results, such as abundant health, such as a financial independence, high quality relationships with other people. And to do that, we have to go deep down and see what the hell is happening there.
And you relate that through productivity?
Yeah, obviously, because like we said, we all have 24 hours a day. Mm. So why am I reading 50 pages a day and you're not? Mm. And maybe you have the same goal as I do, because let's say the reading is kind of correlated with having a better choices in life, better career, more income. So obviously, to get that, you have to become more knowledgeable, because the marketplace will only value as much as you provide value to the marketplace. Yeah. So why am I using my time? Not maybe me, but let's say, why are you using your time better than I am? So obviously something in you is allowing you to use your time better than...
But this is why I was surprised that you were going to come at it through productivity. One aspect of what you were going to come through was through health and through sleep and through structuring your day well so that you actually get more done. Because David Allen looks more at... So particularly, he works a lot on people who rely on their brain to generate the ideas to move their businesses forward. And so part of that is that structuring yourself in a way that you're able to enjoy being present in whatever you're doing, and knowing that what you're doing at the moment is the right thing that you could possibly be doing out of all the different options. Because at any moment in time, there's 100 different things each person could be doing. From a business person to a person who's never worked a day in their life. They have people they need to speak to. They have texts that they're waiting to answer. They have emails on different products. They've got different sports or activities or matches they want to catch up on. There's loads of different things you could be doing. And the problem is, if you've got too much flowing through your head, you can't even relax when you actually are going to relax. And so he focuses more on capturing the thoughts flying around your head, writing them down in a trusted capture tool that you will keep coming back to, so that you know where everything is and what has to be done. And in doing so, you record enough information so that it no longer buzzes around in your mind. And through those tactics, he can increase the productivity, because by getting it out of your brain and onto the page, psychology calls this distributed cognition. Yeah, distributed cognition. So creating what's effectively an extended part of your brain. So whatever goes down the piece of paper is now part of the knowledge that you need. And in allowing the space for your mind to clear, you actually can generate more creative ideas, and so you can actually become more productive. And in doing that, just to finish that one off, your brain then trusts ideas it generates that they will be used wisely, and it will encourage your brain to generate more ideas. And so that's the aspect he was taking on.
That's not an issue. And that's only half of the story. The other half of the story is more important, is that we are damaged since we were young. We didn't have optimal relationship with our parents, most of us. We are low on confidence. We are lost in life. We are overwhelmed by choice. We live in a society that emphasizes fun and instant pleasure instead of working and creating something meaningful for yourself and to leave something after you're long gone to the society. So he's dealing with the surface level, as far as what I can tell now from the story.
Yeah.
This is what people who had basic problems of life solved. Of course, you can focus on creating more flow into your workplace. Of course, you can focus on managing distractions. But what if you're struggling now? If you lost your father or mother, if your sister died from overdose, if you've been bullied for many years, if you grow poor, if you didn't have enough food to eat, you're carrying a long bag full of fears and insecurities with you when you're approaching work. And most of us are carrying this bag with us. Unconsciously. That's what you would call a shadow.
And so you're looking at it that actually hinders people's productivity.
I know it is. I can state that almost 100% it is, at least with myself and with other people that I work with.
But is there not a certain amount of baggage that people can carry and it won't affect them? Because everyone has baggage. So how come everyone who has baggage, some of those are still productive and others aren't?
Well, in the books that I read about productivity and about positive thinking and motivational speaking, they don't go deeper into pathology, into maybe pathology is a too harsh of a word. They don't discuss the existential questions of typical human being. They give you what I call the surface information, but there's always some processes that are preventing you to even attempt to do, because productivity will be tied to your self-image. And if you're someone who perceives himself or herself as not worthy of being loved, and if you even think that you're not good enough to produce anything that's meaningful, you won't be able to even start. Or if you start, you're going to sabotage yourself.
So if you were running that seminar tomorrow, you actually would have focused in on that a lot more.
Indeed. Because I can give you probably 50 or 100 different tools, and I can do that. And I will gladly do that. How to be more productive. But I want you to address the other parts, because when you address them properly, when you take a flashlight and when you put some light on them, when you drag them from the basement of your unconsciousness and you put them to the light and you talk to them, what you will find are the treasures that are far greater than any treasures you can get in this world. Those are the treasures of high character, which one of my mentors used to call the treasures of high character. Once you address your fears, your insecurities, and because those are the parts that are kind of out of alignment with you, because it's like someone is throwing what's the word in English when you're riding a bicycle, when someone throwing
pebbles or stones
in and putting a metal pipe in between your wheels.
Oh, the spokes.
So you keep falling down, and you're starting to cycle again. You never get a true momentum, which you could have, and you can always wonder what is your true potential. What your true potential could have been if you've addressed what needs to be addressed before you start any kind of project.
That still doesn't answer though how some people can carry their baggage and still be productive.
Well, some people grew up in the right conditions. Some people were more equipped at the beginning since they're born. Nature was more generous to them, so they were able to psychologically solve those, I wouldn't say issues, but solve those issues by themselves without needing too much help. I know that myself, I needed to do a lot of introspection, a lot of reading, because I wasn't so gifted to address those things by myself. I couldn't figure them out by myself, and since working with other people, I saw that a lot of other people need help to address those things before they can truly become productive.
I feel though like people would rock up and feel more indebted with things they have to do if they actually begin to look at themselves as potential hindrance of their own productivity, because then they've actually got some real problems they got to unpack.
Well, it's part of being a human being as well, is realizing that you're not perfect, realizing that you're a mortal being, realizing that life by default is a harsh, unfair place. It's a lot of things to take into consideration. It can be overwhelming for majority of people. Majority of people would probably just neglect or ignore that idea that life is what it is.
I can say for certain, any videos I've been watching on the topic, they never address that. They don't even want to. It's almost as if they may know it's there, they may have the same sort of perspective that you have on it, but maybe it's just it's a challenge they don't want to even bring to the table.
Well, that's why we love people like Jordan Peterson. That's why we love people like David Goggins, and that's why we love people like Joe Rogan. They talk about real life issues, about what you're likely going to face day by day, what fears you're likely going to face, what obstacles you will likely have to overcome.
How do you then, if you don't want to go down the lines of that sort of superficial motivation though, what do you say to people who are going, bringing it back again, I hate anything people talk about these days, Corona or later, but anyway, coming back to the lockdown again, those people who are scared stiff going into the next 6 weeks of how miserable their lives are going to become again, what things can you say to them that may give them encouragement?
Life is hell. Life is a bad place by default, but it can be made better, and it's up to you to make it better. You don't have to give up. You don't have to give in. Initial tendency of you as human being will likely be, for majority of population, probably will likely be to drink more, to eat more, to exercise less. This is the grind. This is the proving grounds for you now. I believe that this is just an opportunity for you to get better. If this is your goal, you don't have to give up. You don't have to give in to those instinctual tendencies to just go with the flow and procrastinate or just wait for the right circumstances. You don't have to do it.
See, it's lovely now if we could get more people to rally around each other, and if you got a community of people who all had that mindset, it'd be beautiful. But part of the lockdown then is that you're actually cut off from people, and like some people only go gym because they have partners to go gymming with.
Well, I would say to people as well, it's 6 weeks now. It's 6 times 7 is 42. So imagine being in prison for 42 days. So you can probably do a lot of push-ups and sit-ups in 42 days. And it's not like you don't have any frying pans and you don't have any vegetables and fruits in your place. You can make yourself healthy meals for those 42 days. You just have to refuse to be a victim of the circumstances. It's nice to be a victim because mommy and daddy will come and pat you on your back, and maybe your friends will say to you, "You're so unique. You're fine. You're better than that." It's like, wake up. You don't need that kind of encouragement. You already have in you everything that you need to achieve success, to realize your highest potential. You just have to decide to use it. And once you decide to do it, it gets easier. For some reason, this is the way we've been constructed, apparently. This is the way we are wired. Our first response is to play the victim role. For people who had troubled childhood, who had bad relationship with their parents, with peer groups, The first thing they want to do is cover themselves with a blanket and just to say to themselves, this is not happening, this is not happening. This is a defense mechanism, psychoanalytical defense mechanism called, I believe in English would be negation of reality. This is not happening, so you're suppressing it basically. Even though it served you a long time ago, this mechanism served you from excessive stress. As an adult, you're never hopeless or helpless. It's expected from you almost. This part of you expects from you to take responsibility, to do what needs to be done, and you know what it is. But you can't do it if you're going to stay in the self-image of a victim of circumstances.
That's actually a very good point as well, though, because there's certain people that always catch me. And that's, if I meet somebody new, or if I'm watching someone in whatever job they're doing, or YouTube, or whatever, I come into contact with them, and they see they're all guns blazing, they're getting this done, they're getting that done. I'm like, yeah, that's a person who's moving and shaking. And then you hear little stories about who they actually are, or where they grew up, or that you hear they make a little past remark. It's like, oh yeah, no, well, my father died when I was 6, and they keep going. And you go, oh shit, this person's got demons. But you know when you look at them that that's not how they're presenting themselves. They have, whether they've worked on themselves for years and you just don't see it, well, you obviously can't see it, because when you meet someone for the first time, you don't know how they've lived their life. But when you get those people that you've already respected, and then you hear these what were perfectly acceptable and understandable excuses to lie back and say, well, my life is now hell forever, and you realize they didn't take those scapegoats. Oh man, those people just, they channel me in. I love those people. And it's really something special, and it's really something unique to be able to look at all the challenges that come your way as a reason to keep fighting rather than a reason to lie down.
It's always up to you. Things won't get better if you're passive, if you're being indecisive. Things will get worse. And you can pretend as much as you want that they won't get worse. It will. Everything in life that remains idle for too long atrophies and dies, fades away.
Look how fast. I even noticed that over the lockdown now. I tried 2 home workouts. Never doing them again. They're miserable. I really struggle with them personally. Holding the hand up there. I know we're talking about encouraging people to train stuff. I hate home workouts. Don't get me wrong. And I enjoyed the first 2 weeks of lockdown, put the feet up, etc. But how rapidly you get fat, you get weak,
exactly.
You get lazy.
The one problem I have with people when they tell me enjoy the process, that's bull crap. No one enjoys lifting steel. I mean, maybe some people do. I do, but it depends on the quantity of steel that you're lifting. so no one, I shouldn't use those words, no one, but it's nothing naturally enjoying
pain,
and
voluntary pain.
But you do it because of the end results, and because of what will happen if you don't do it. You don't have to enjoy the process, enjoy the end results. You don't have to love the work, love the end results, the fruits of your labor.
So actually, on the topic there of voluntary pain acceptance, you've decided to stick with your plans and move to Norway in the middle of the pandemic and leave me here on my own to cry myself to sleep every night. Why are you still going?
Well, there could be many answers to that question. Well, the biggest one is, in Ireland it's very difficult to, at least for me, what I've experienced in the past 3 years, it's very challenging to earn enough money to have my own place where I can kind of enjoy life and be productive the way I want. It's not aligned with my goal, and that is to have my own place, to have the separate room where I can produce the materials for my YouTube channel, and just to have a place to relax and not seeing other people, not sharing a house with 6 or 8 other people. Norway provided me with that 3 years ago, and the rent was cheaper, the wages were way better than in Ireland, so that's basically a reason. And also the people, I have tremendous connection with people there, and just a safer life. And this is one of the mistakes I've made a lot when I was younger. The Maslow hierarchy of needs, I believe the number one is to
self-actualization.
That's the on the top of the pyramid. But the bottom one was to have a solid foundation so you can live in peace, so you can exist in peace, so you can have basic needs met.
Yeah.
And besides food and drink and sleep, obviously you need money as well. Money will enable you to buy food and
Place to sleep.
get a place to sleep. Exactly. So I'm kind of focusing now on building the bottom of that pyramid, and everything else will emerge as a consequence of having a strong foundation. And I had a plan to go to Switzerland as well, but I'm not that familiar with Switzerland as a country, so it would be a bigger risk than I can afford right now, and I didn't feel that competent and confident of going to Switzerland, so I kind of needed something that I already knew and I was familiar with, and also have one of my best friends in Norway who was willing to help me, with a place to stay for 10 days of quarantine, and who will help me to get on the right track to find a job quicker than I would probably do it by doing it by myself and other things.
It's only a 10-day quarantine in...
I think so.
Oh. And so, like, are you... So, by the sounds of that, so you're not actually set up yet? You don't have a job confirmed yet?
I kind of do.
Okay.
My former boss contacted me. He'd offered me a job, but to be honest, I want to figure stuff out by myself.
Okay.
So I worked in security in Norway full time, and I was very successful in security. But I want to try some other things as well without stressing and myself too much with working with. It's that kind of a job that you essentially work with problems.
Mm-hmm.
In problems that are causing you stress in a higher degree than some other jobs.
You mean in a coach-client situation?
As in,
let's say if I worked in a factory, obviously this security job will provide you with more stress than working in a factory or as a cleaner or with clients or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of trying to leave the field of working in security and shift towards something and maybe work with people and working a normal 8 to 4, 8 to 5 job, so I have the rest of the day to do my workouts, to read more, research more, and start shooting the materials. I'm also working on a new website, and so I can have maybe dedicate next 6 months to building a strong foundation without excessive stress, unnecessary stress. It's not like that I'm in the beginning of my quest at the marketplace.
Yeah, it's not your first rodeo. What's your Norwegian like?
Veldig bra. Jeg jobber hver dag og forbedrer norsken min, which means I work every day to make my Norwegian better. I'm also learning over Skype with a Norwegian teacher 3 times a week now.
No way.
So my goal is to get my B1, maybe even B2 level by the end of the year, and it's realistic. She said it's very realistic because I'm doing well so far.
Is that an online course now, or how would you find her?
Well, I posted in a group. It's called Norwegian Reality. So I posted in a group that I'm looking for a teacher, instructor.
Was that Facebook or?
Facebook group, yes, exactly. So and probably 10 other people contacted me, and I just picked the right one. She's also a teacher in Norwegian, I believe in Swedish. So she's highly knowledgeable, and we're working just fine. And actually this morning I had an hour and a half of Norwegian. I have Friday as well. So I'm...
And it's just one-on-one?
One-on-one.
Very good. Well, man, I wish you all the very best in it, like.
Thank you.
I'm gonna miss you terribly, like, but we've got a lot of plans going on.
We have a lot of plans, and when the circumstances allow us, we will do just fine.
Oh,
you know why? Because we will have positive momentum behind us. We will work hard with the tools we have right now. So once we're back to normal, we'll be able to utilize everything that marketplace and the economy and other people have to offer to us, and we have a lot to offer back to them as well. So it's important to remain focused. I think it's important to remain focused. It's important to use whatever we have right now, so we can use everything when we have it.
When the time comes.
Man,
thank you very, very much for today.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.